Travis, what's up, man?
Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Men of Iron podcast.
Hey, that's nice. I like that.
It's December.
It is December.
Gosh, hasn't snowed yet.
It hasn't. But you know what? You're looking good. You know why?
Why?
Because I can actually see you. This is our first video podcast in quite a while.
It is. I wasn't here when we did them before,
Yeah.
so here we are, kicking them off, man.
Yeah.
It must just be to capture your beauty.
Yeah,
on camera.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm Justin Watkins.
JW,
Yeah. Silver Fox.
working for Men of Iron.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Travis Albanesius, currently living in Ephrata, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
So where do you live?
I'm in Willow Street.
Willow Street.
Yeah.
I've never been to Willow Street.
Come
so
on by.
Yeah.
That's great.
yeah.
Do you have a nickname?
Yeah, I guess like people used to call me Albie
Albie.
back in high school,
All right.
but it died in high school. So you can feel free to call me that.
All right.
I just know yours to be J-Dub.
J-Dub and Albie here with you on our first video podcast,
Yep.
new series. We're trying to make this really a resource for men to hit up topics that really matter to their lives.
Yeah,
right?
let's
So
get real. What are we calling this?
I think we're calling this month. We're going with the 4 man killers. I don't know,
Yeah.
dangers, pitfalls, challenges that will knock men off their adventure to know God and their purpose.
Yeah,
So man
think it's
killers,
really good.
challenges.
yeah. But we're gonna talk about 4, and
Four
let's
of them.
get real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I ain't got time to be soft and play patty cake.
Man, I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm already a little intimidated by
All right,
this.
yeah,
This is
let's
good.
go. So what are we talking about this week?
This week we're doing fear.
Fear.
So I want to start off. Travis, you're a big, strong guy,
Oh man, thank you.
real strong.
Yep.
But what are you afraid of? What are some things that make Albie sweat at night?
Oh, goodness. You know, this is ridiculous, but one of the longest fears that I've had in my life is actually the fear of birds. Yeah.
Birds?
Yeah, that's real, man. And, I haven't really hid that. I had an issue when I was in middle school. I had a teacher who used to let a bird, she had a pet bird in the classroom, and she used to let the bird out, and that thing would fly around.
Inside the classroom?
Inside the classroom.
Like
And
a parrot?
No, it was a tiny little bird. Anyway, and then one time at my friend's house, he would do the same thing. His mom had a pet bird, and that thing would fly around. And one time it got close to me, and I swatted it out of the air because it was like going to land in my hair. At least I felt like it was.
Yeah.
So I swatted it, and the thing landed.
Did you kill it?
No, thank
Yeah.
goodness, because it was, a pet bird. I thought it was injured, but it wasn't. So anyway, ever since then, I'm just like, yeah, birds flying around my head
That's your fear.
definitely freaks me out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever met anyone with that fear.
Fear, yeah.
Fear of
I mean,
birds.
I'm not afraid of birds like out, and if I see a bird, I'm okay with that. But if it starts to fly around my head, that would get me.
Man.
What are you afraid of?
I was watching a thing on social media the other day of this job where you can make a ton of money climbing like light towers
Yeah,
and changing the light bulbs at the top of them.
yeah,
And it is like heights for sure.
Right.
Like it's just like a ladder
Yeah, I
up
can
like
see that.
hundreds and hundreds of feet.
yeah.
And that would freak me out. So like I have dreams. That's my most reoccurring like nightmare in my dream. Yeah, as I'm falling
Gosh.
or losing my grip on a ladder. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not like terribly afraid of heights, but that and maybe getting stabbed. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
That's a fear.
Yes, man. Yeah. Anywhere, like stabbed in the chest.
Yeah,
or,
I wouldn't want to get stabbed
in your
anywhere.
hand.
So I don't like shots and needles.
Right.
That kind of goes along with that theme, but
All right. Well,
that's it. That's the podcast.
that's it. See you guys next week. We're
yeah.
talking about all right. So fear. Obviously, there's cheesy fears. I
Yeah.
feel like, but what are some real fears, man?
Yeah. Well, I did some research on this. I'm curious your thoughts. So these were the things that I found.
Yeah.
Consistently listed for fears that men specifically have: fear of failing,
Yep.
fear of being incompetent, fear of being weak or being perceived as weak,
Yeah.
being irrelevant, or looking foolish.
Gosh.
Any of those hit you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely being incompetent, and not necessarily being incompetent, but appearing as if you are incompetent. I mean, that's a real, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
especially if I feel like I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, that would be one, but that can bleed into a ton of different things. Being weak or perceived as weak. Yeah, that might have something to do with the fitness fad, that guys are running after right now. What else, man? Looking foolish.
Yeah.
You ever looked foolish?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to not be afraid of something if it comes so natural to you, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's, but I mean, for real, like that's how many men are afraid? A lot, like that list is, they're all kind of similar.
Yeah.
Like failing, incompetence, looking weak, like it's about having it all together.
Yeah.
And being in charge. I think like I mean, we don't do it anymore, but I remember, before GPS, the big thing on men was like, you never stop for directions, right? Like,
Right.
I'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why is that ingrained that we have to have it all together all the time?
Yeah, it's true though. And I think like failing's at the top of the list there, but failing at anything, that's why we're afraid to try new things. That's why we're afraid to get out of our comfort zone and just go for it, because you're scared to fail, or you're scared to look stupid as you try to accomplish something that's ridiculous. One time I was at a nightclub, right? I know I look like the club and type. It was a line dancing club.
Oh.
And there was a mechanical bull there, right? And so I thought, I'd be like, man, I'm going to dominate. I've ridden a horse before. I know what I'm doing. You ever try and ride a mechanical bull?
No, actually.
Yeah, well, I lasted about a half a second,
Ooh.
that thing. But none of my friends would try it because they were all scared to try, right? And they didn't want to look foolish in front of all the people that were there. I was like, you guys are weak, man. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Look foolish. But I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think fear, do you feel like in your experience working with men, and we both work with men in different capacities in the church, in the community, like where would you put this ranking in terms of like where men struggle with?
And being a pitfall?
Yeah, a man killer.
Yeah. Well, especially when it comes into the context of what we're trying to accomplish, right? Like, we as an organization, want to lead men to grow in their faith and their relationship with Christ, which will then ultimately lead them to be great husbands, be great fathers, prioritize other parts of their life. Like when I think about, what are you afraid to fail? For me, I know like maybe it's answering a question about the Bible in public. So, I don't know, that makes people afraid to speak up. You're in a meeting at work and like, there's things being said and you don't want to sound ridiculous. There's fear, right? That you might say something irrelevant or that you might look foolish. So you don't say anything when you probably should have. Yeah. I've always taken it, just go for it. But like, yeah, I would see how that could impact your ability to lead well, if your fear is like, I don't know, what would you have a fear of with your family? Them falling short in some way. I don't know. Like, can that affect how you lead your family?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's, that kind of goes into other fears. That list has a lot to do with always being in control, always having the answers, not wanting to fail. So not trying something.
Yeah.
And then there's also the fear of, I think of just like being vulnerable. So like kind of related to having it all together. Man, I got to do this on my own. I'm afraid to open up. I'm afraid to share that I'm dealing with some struggles and I don't have it all together. I've got questions. I've got doubts.
What might people think of me if they knew that I thought this, or if I didn't, I don't know. Yeah. What would people think of me?
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it holds people back.
Big time.
It's holding you back. I know it's holding me back in a lot of ways. You're scared to speak up and speak your mind. Same thing. Like even people are afraid to put a video on social media, right? To preach some message that they're passionate about preaching that people probably need to hear, and you haven't posted it yet. I'm speaking myself, and even this, man, like what are people going to think about us? Like babbling on these microphones. I could be scared and not step into this, right? Where it actually could have an impact on somebody.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to step out.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking about, how does this impact even in the church? Men in general. I think this is true for men in general. This fear of perception and how I come across. How's that work in the church? Like, it's not like so much different in the church.
Yeah. What do you mean though? Perception, how I come across, like in what way?
Well, I mean, okay, I'll just answer my own question. I think, when it comes, again, going back to the vulnerability piece, I think when it comes to just church culture, it's like, man, we know Jesus,
Yeah.
and so we shouldn't be afraid in general, but then we still wrestle with fear.
Yeah.
And that fear of perception then becomes like, we have to have it all together, even in the church.
Right.
So like happy, shiny people come in Sunday morning, no
Yeah.
problems, because Jesus washed it all away.
Yeah.
And I think that just hits right at it actually undermines the gospel, I think, because the gospel is built on the fact that we can't do it on our own.
Yeah.
We are incapable. We need help. But then when we get there, we kind of act like, oh, well, I've got it all together, and I can't let people see that I've got cracks. Otherwise, somehow that, takes away from the gospel.
Yeah.
And actually it's the opposite.
Right.
Right? Like that's the antithesis of the gospel message.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't do it on your own.
Right. And it's, the power of, like having Jesus, right? Like in your life, and following him, but like also, having community and guys that you can get real with, and vulnerable. What are your fears? Have you told anybody your fears? Do you just talk to your wife about your fears? Or do you have somebody else that you can talk to about it that's real, that can encourage you, challenge you, pray for you to overcome that stuff.
Yeah.
So community, man.
Yeah, it's good. I was thinking through, it's funny though. I think we're in good company. I was thinking like how many men in the Bible dealt with fear.
Yeah.
And I think probably more so than not. Like thinking about like any guy that was called to do something great for God.
Yeah.
Most of them, the first response was not like, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
Most of them were like, I can't talk well, like Moses.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do that. Send someone else.
Yeah.
Gideon hiding in the wine press when war's going on. Gideon like, that's not me.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these guys there was something holding them back from the purpose that God was calling them to.
Yeah.
And they were afraid of it.
Yeah. And like, hey, I think David.
Yeah.
He's, you want to talk about fear of what people think, Noah.
Yeah.
Stepping like, build an ark. God asks you to do something, and then you're going to look crazy or stupid for doing it, and you obey. Same with David, though. I mean, he steps out to fight Goliath. He could have fear for sure of dying, but Jesus had fear.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's real. Like Jesus himself, before he like, I don't know what I guess you could call it fear, but he's going to the cross. And before he goes, he drops down to his knees in the garden and cries out, Father, please take this cup from me. Was it the fear of pain? What was the fear?
Yeah.
But there was something.
Yeah. So what's that do for us for men and fear? If we can see that these men of the Bible who got used, they had fear. What did they do with it? Like, what do we do with our fear? Like, how can we not let fear become a man killer and take us off our path to know God and our purpose?
Yeah. Well, to me, I think like for me personally, what gives me confidence is knowing that I'm aligned with Christ. So like spending consistent time in God's word, right? And in prayer, journaling, right? Putting my thoughts down on paper so that I can be convicted that what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling is real. And then I'm not afraid to speak up when I'm asked to. I'm not afraid to go do something because I truly feel like God's calling me to go do it. So, man, even though you have fear, how do you press through it like Christ did and trust that God's in control? You know? So
I think you kind of bring up a good point. It's not that the goal is to not have fear.
Yeah.
Like the goal is not, hey, don't be afraid of anything.
Yeah.
Because that's just going to mask, because that's not possible.
Yeah.
We're not capable of that.
Right.
It's a matter of recognizing it and being vulnerable enough to be open to the Lord with ourselves and with other people.
Right.
Like to go, hey, it's okay. Like we all deal with, whether it's birds or, sharp objects. Like we've got things that we are afraid of.
Right.
Ignoring them or pretending we don't have them doesn't solve anything. And if anything, it probably just makes it worse.
Yeah.
So being able to recognize them with the Lord, with ourselves, and with someone else.
Yeah.
So then what would be the next, where do you go from that? Is that it? Is that like a huge step?
Well, share your fear, press through, because I don't know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and there's some real things. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? And potentially, I mean, I don't know, even if you had a bad diagnosis, man, and like you're staring like at, man, you know, I got 2 years to live, you know, like, gosh, you know, how, I don't know, man, you can be afraid of that, you know, or you can go to God and say, hey, this is real. How do I handle, you know, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of, you know, my wife living on her own, my kids, you know, like what's going to happen to them? Or like you go to God, you seek him wholeheartedly. And I'm not speaking, I can't speak from that because I don't have that diagnosis, but it's like, man, like, so who am I to speak on that? But how do you press through it, man?
Yeah. I think, it's going to look different for every guy.
Yeah.
I think the step is being real about it and not hiding from it, not hiding from the fact that you have a fear, being able to recognize it, go deeper on it.
Yeah.
Like, what is the root cause for that fear?
It's so good.
And being able to share that and get accountability and support. And those answers, the specific things, like you're saying, are going to come. But if we as men can't come to a place where we can admit that we have fear in the first place, we're never going to deal with it. We can't deal with something that we ignore and push aside.
I love it though, man. Because with the absence of like, if I don't know you're afraid and you did it anyway, like for David, for instance, it would be so great if in the Bible it said, and David was afraid, but he did it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't say that, but the truth is he probably was afraid, you know, but he did it anyway. And that's where courage is. That's like what's inspiring, I think, is like, so letting people know you're afraid and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
it's good.
It's good.
Man, we killed that fear.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
So the first man killer down.
Yeah.
What's next? What's next week?
Next week is apathy.
Hey.
Oh, I'm excited about this one. So
good.
I'm excited. Yep.
And in the meantime, guys can go to menofiron.org
Yeah.
and check out resources to help share with someone else. So get some accountability, mentorship.
Yeah.
Check out more pictures of us on the website,
Right.
maybe.
If you want to.
Yeah.
It's random. But anyway, listen, we're so glad you joined us. Man, you know, conquer your fears this week. If we can pray for you, encourage you, whatever it be, reach out to us, menofiron.org. Talk to you next week.
Peace.
Hey, thanks for listening to our Men of Iron podcast. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you go to menofiron.org, or you can hit the subscribe button. You can ring the notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any future episodes. But again, thanks for checking out Men of Iron.